Good afternoon and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting, which I'm calling to order. It is Thursday, October 27th, 2022, 4:30 PM in the City Council chambers. First item of business is the approval of the minutes from the September 29th, 2022 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions?
I'll offer a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Most minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. First item is to consider the petition of Alan Paler on behalf of S&P Development LLC requesting to rezone the property legally described as lots 8 through 13, Block 2, Milford Heights, Second Edition, from R4 High Density Residence District to R2 Single and Two Family Residence District. The street address of the property is 633 to 653 Haberly Avenue. City report.
Okay, you provided the current legal description for the property. Should note that that description is, there's a pending plat that would change that to lots 1 through 4, Block 1, Milford Heights, 7th edition. The deadline for a decision on this matter is December 4th, 2022. The land use legal designation for the property is medium density residential. The surrounding land uses to the north is low density residential, to the west is low and medium density residential, to the south is low density residential, and to the east is low and medium density residential. Again, that is for our comprehensive plan. The zoning designation for the property, you've already gone through. The surrounding zoning is to the north, R1 and R2, to the west, R2, to the south, R1, and to the east, R4. The current site use is, site is vacant. Area land uses include, to the north, it's property is being farmed. To the west, we have townhomes and single-family dwellings. To the south are single-family dwellings. And to the east are twin homes. Notice has been provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on October 15th, 2022. Public comment, we did receive one email from an area property owner, and that is in your agenda packet. Site description and use. The total land area that we're talking about is 33,742 square feet, or 0.77 acres. The owner is proposing to construct 2 twin homes on the property. Twin homes are not a permitted use in the R4 zoning district. They are permitted use in the R2 and the R3. The R3 is a medium density residence district. The land uses in the R4 zoning district are pretty much limited to multi-unit apartments. With conditional use, with a conditional use permit, we have a number of other institutional uses that would be permitted in that zoning district. A little bit of the history on this particular parcel of property. It was annexed into the city on November 8th, 22. Doesn't sound right. 2002. The property was zoned RA, Agricultural Residence District, at the time of its annexation. Since its annexation, the property has been rezoned as follows. July 3rd, 2007, it was zoned to R1, Single Family Residence District. August 1st, 2017, it was rezoned to R3, which was a multiple family residence district. And on March 1st, 2022, as part of the total rezoning of the community. Yeah, it was designated R4, which is a high-density residence district. Now, the reason it was rezoned to R4 is because of the existence of 6 lots in that half block, and that number of lots required the R4 designation, assuming it would be entirely built out. When zoned R3 under the city's old zoning ordinance, single-family duplex and twin homes would have been permitted uses on the property without any further city approval. A development agreement provision limits building height on this property to 35 feet. There is no minimum height requirement, and it would have been possible for the developer to have constructed single-story townhomes on the project, or attached housing is, I guess, the term that typically would have been used. Rezoning criteria. Pursuant to Minnesota law established by the Minnesota Supreme Court, decisions on rezoning requests must be based on consideration of the following criteria. 1 is whether the proposed rezoning corrects an error in the original zoning text or map, or 2, whether the proposed rezoning addresses needs arising from a changing condition, trend, or fact affecting the subject property and surrounding area. The rezoning must meet one of the 2 criteria that I just described. Of the 2 criteria, the proposed rezoning does not correct an error in the original zoning text or map. As a result, the rezoning can only be approved if it addresses a changing condition, trend, or fact affecting the property and surrounding area. A third criteria to be considered following a decision on the first 2 is whether the proposed rezoning is consistent with achieving the goals and objectives outlined in the comprehensive plan. It is the responsibility of the petitioner to provide information justifying their request to the Planning Commission. Now, as far as zoning definitions, the current R4 zoning district definition is to provide high-density housing along with directly related complementary uses. The requested rezoning to R2, that definition is to provide for low to moderate density 1 and 2 unit dwelling units along with directly related complementary uses. So the consideration before the Planning Commission is, does the requested rezoning meet the criteria for a changing condition, trend, or fact? Staff recommendation. Staff would recommend approval of the rezoning request for the following reasons. Number 1, the city's comprehensive plan designates the property for medium-density residential land uses. The rezoning would be consistent with that designation. Number 2, the rezoning would be compatible with area land uses and zoning. Twin homes are a suitable land use in this location. 3, subject property has been zoned for residential purposes in the past. 4, approval of the rezoning would be a form of downzoning. To a limited degree, it would lessen density, traffic, and provide environmental benefit. And then 5, currently there is a strong market for twin homes in New Ulm. Townhomes similar to those directly across the street were the intended land use for the property. Those townhomes were built in 2018. One of them sold in July of 2018, and 2 were sold in March of 2020, and 1 has not sold, but is currently occupied. It would appear that this type and size of residential unit has not generated the same amount of interest as twin homes. In staff's opinion, these factors are evidence of a changing condition, trend, or fact. There are 5 attachments. Attachment number 1 is the rezoning petition. Attachment number 2 is the amended comprehensive plan land use map identifying the area proposed for rezoning. Attachment number 3 is the zoning map of the area. Attachment 4 is an aerial photograph of the property. And I believe that's what John has on the video monitor. And attachment number 5 are ground level photographs of the property. And then staff has provided a motion to approve the request and a motion to deny the request. And that would conclude the staff report.
Where is the letter from the neighbor?
Would you mind explaining that email, Dave?
You said there was an email.
It's not in
It's
the,
not in there.
It's not.
okay. It might,
Unless I paged through here, but it wasn't, isn't
Charlie
attached.
didn't make the
Okay.
agenda packet.
Either.
I don't know that I made a copy of it. It's
Can you-
probably on my
Can you provide
computer.
a summary of what the email was?
Basically, the email said that the property was, rezoned in 2017, that it was the intent at that time that it would be a multi-story building, and that, this is changed to twin homes, and that they thought that the design of the area or the appearance of the area to only have one building of 2 stories and every other building to be a 1-story building, that would not be appropriate, and recommended denial of the rezoning for that purpose. And I apologize that.
I just want to make sure that we understand they felt that the townhome was more appropriate than the twin home. The twin home is a single level or the tall.
Correct. They
Correct.
thought that the a 2-level structure would be more appropriate because it would be compatible with what's across the street.
Okay.
What they're going to end up now is just 1 2-story building, which is going to stand out, I assume.
Okay. And the rest of the land, because I was up there, is undeveloped, so there's,
Well, every other dwelling unit up there is a 1-story
Thank you.
dwelling unit.
are there questions, comments? Is the developer here to see, want to address anything, or? Does anyone have questions for?
No.
Do we have any idea why the townhomes? I mean, we're making the assumption that that there's not interest in the townhomes. Do we have any other information on maybe why they didn't sell?
I guess Mr. Paler is probably in better position to answer that question than I would be.
Thanks, Commissioners, for hearing our proposal tonight.
Would
Yeah,
you
the
please state your
townhomes.
name and address, please? Thank
Al
you.
Paler, 519 Valley View Drive, Cortland, Minnesota, representing S&P Development. We're not sure. We did a lot of research with the realtors and stuff on the townhomes and stuff prior. I think part of the townhome was the 2-story. A lot of people, we thought we'd get a younger generation in. Now what's moved into there is a younger generation, but we were kind of focusing towards the, an older area for the townhomes with having the HOAs and stuff, not having to mow your grass and such. But it was a tough sale at that time. I mean, we were at $265,000 for 2,200 finished square feet plus an unfinished basement. It was a fantastic sale, but we couldn't give them away. And as David noted, it took almost 2 years to get rid of that, and we still have one left right now. The biggest reason for the rezone is the twin homes. I mean, it's one of them that, when this fad goes, it goes. You've seen a few weeks ago or a few months ago, we rezoned the area from the ag or whatever it was to twin homes. Well, we got the infrastructure costs on that, and it's astronomical right now to put that in. So I have this land sitting. We have buyers that want to build there. Me as a developer felt it fit in because they're right behind there. And kind of to go towards the letter that was sent, even if we left it and it got denied and we went with another townhome situation, it will only be a one-story. The financial facts of that two-story building right now is over 2 million. If I do a sixplex there, we're looking at about 1.7 million. To sell 6 like this it's hard to do as a developer, where for some reason the twin homes, when they just have that little separation and there's only 2 together, people like that. Otherwise it's just house, 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 house. So that's just kind of where New Ulm sits, and I believe you've had other developers here that are doing twin homes. There's a new subdivision coming in with twin homes. That's kind of the key. So we just had trouble selling, and I have really, scared cold feet to try to do it again. And, we just wouldn't do the 2-story because we had a lot of downfall that the people did not like steps. So.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there any other questions? If there are no questions or comments, I am going to close the public hearing and have, John, are you doing the fact-finding sheet for us?
Yeah, in this particular case.
Oh, we
sir,
don't have a fact-finding sheet.
We don't have a
with this.
fact-finding sheet.
I'm ahead of myself. I apologize. If there are no questions, then I guess I need a motion.
I would move to recommend approval of the petition of Alan Paler. Thank you, sorry. On behalf of S&P Development LLC to rezone from R4 to R2, the property legally described as Lot 8 through 13, Block 2, Milford Heights, 2nd Edition.
I'll second.
Excuse me, do we have conditions on this? Do you approve with conditions or without?
I don't think there were any conditions
No
proposed.
I
condition.
think staff those are recommendations, okay. I really need to wake up today. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? When does this appear?
It'll be next
Next Tuesday,
Tuesday,
November
Next
4th.
Tuesday?
November 4th.
Thank
yeah.
you. Okay. There, finally, excuse me, I was waiting for my screen to move. Consider the application of Al Paler on behalf of S&P Development LLC requesting the following variances on the property with the current legal description of lots 8 through 13, Block 2, Milford Heights, 2nd Edition, and proposed to be replatted as lots 1 through 4, Block 1, Milford Heights, 7th Edition. A, the minimum lot width is 60 feet. The proposed lots 2, 3, and 4 do not comply with this standard. B, the minimum total lot area is 7,500 square feet. The proposed lots 2 and 3 do not comply with this standard. Thank you.
Thank you. John Nisley, planner with the City of New Ulm. This is the exact same property we were just talking about, so if the commission wouldn't mind, I'm going to skip down to the notice portion. Okay. So notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on October 15th, 2022. To date, I have not received any comment regarding this variance request. So the site description use. Reduction in a lot width variance. So the minimum lot width in the R2 zoning district is 60 feet per unit. And the lot width for lot number 2 is 55.2 feet. For lot number 3 is 52.48 feet. For lot number 4 is 54.8 feet. So those are the lot widths that are less than 60 feet on this property. The reduction in the lot area variance, the minimum lot area in the R2 zoning district, again, is 7,500 square feet per unit. Lot number 2 and lot number 3 do not meet those minimum square foot area limits. So lot number 2 is 7,303 square feet, and lot number 3 is 7,328 square feet. Our old zoning ordinance minimum requirements for the R2 zoning district had a minimum lot width of 50 feet and a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. So under our old ordinance, it would have met the criteria of both lot width, and minimum lot area. So the project description, history. Again, the property was annexed into the city on November 8th, 2002. Property was zoned RA, Ag Residence District at the time of its annexation. Since its annexation, the property has been rezoned in July 3rd, 2007 to R1, August 1st, 2017 to R3 Multiple Family Residence District, March 1st, 2022 to the R4 High Density Residence District, and then what you just reviewed, proposed to be R2, the single and two-family residence district. The owner is proposing to construct 2 twin homes on the site. The proposed twin homes will meet all required property line setbacks for the R2 zoning district. There are currently twin homes to the west, and then across the alley that would be mirrored on this. Across the alley, this site would mirror what is on the west. Unique circumstances. The current arrangement of the platted lots was approved as Milford Heights Second Edition on September 19th, 2017. At that time, this half block of property was the intended location of 6 townhomes. There was, however, sufficient land area, and the site was properly zoned to also accommodate 2 sets of twin homes. It is not possible to replat the property to meet the new zoning standards for the lots are. The lot area and the lot depth are due to the required street, alley, and existing lot locations. Fender Drive was platted as part of Milford Heights First Edition in 2007. Haberly Avenue was platted in 2017 as Milford Heights Second Edition. Both of these streets have curved alignment resulting from the location of stormwater retention pond to the east of Fender Drive. The street alignment prohibits the establishment of the traditional rectangular lot, which we see throughout the community. The road configuration has reduced the frontage of the new lots on Haberly Avenue. So you can see attachment 2, which I'll pull up here on the screen, site location map. The total area of the proposed block 1 is 3,742 square feet. If the square footage amount is divided by 4, again, the number of proposed lots, the per lot size evenly divided would be 8,435 square feet. This would easily comply with the lot area requirements of 7,500 square feet. It is only when you factor in the setback requirements that the lot variances are necessary. Prior to the adoption of the new zoning ordinance, 2 sets of twin homes would have been a permitted use on the property without any variances. Staff has previously discussed this potential use with the applicant. The proposed plat reduces the number of lots from 6 to 4, yet variances are required for its approval. And then lastly, at the time of the next amendment of the zoning ordinance, staff will recommend that the zoning standards for R2 uses revert back to the previous requirements for lot area and lot width. So evaluation, that's our staff's response to the findings of fact. And what I would like to do is we could either go through that now, or we could do that when you're going through your recommendation. So
Does the commission want to do it now or in unison when we approve?
Let's do it once.
Do it once? Okay.
well, the findings of fact, staff completed findings of fact form is in your packet and posted online as well. So project considerations. In order to recommend approval of the variance request, the commission will need to adopt findings of facts and recommendations using the review criteria as provided on the findings of fact form attached here. The planning commission and the city council must make an affirmative finding on all variance criteria in order to grant a variance request. The applicant has the burden of proof to show that all the criteria have been satisfied. Now, I understand when you go through the findings of fact form, there are some that would need to be answered yes and some that would need to be answered no. So there might be a little bit of confusion why they're not all answered yes. So when I say there needs to be an affirmative finding, means that all of the answers need to be in support of passing that or denying that variance request. So as we go through the findings of fact tonight, just be aware of that. Staff is actively trying to adjust the questions so they all are either yes or all no. It's a lot of juggling of language there. So hopefully we get that to you in that form in the near term.
Thank you, and I do appreciate Mr. Paler's filling out the fact-finding sheet. It's work, and I appreciate the developer going through that work. Thank you.
You bet.
Are there any questions
Well-
from the commission?
We do have 7 attachments with this request. First is the variance application. Second is the final plat. What I tried to do in your attachments is show the property and then highlight the area the lots that we're specifically talking about here. So this is Milford Heights 7th edition. The areas in pink are the 3 lots that would need the variances. We have a site map shown here. A zoning map, we have ground level photographs of the property. Again, attachment 6 is the staff response to the findings of fact, and then attachment 7 is the findings of fact form. Then lastly, there are actually 2 motions on the table here. One to consider the variance request for reducing lot width, and then the other one is consider the variance request to reduce total lot area. So we have both motions in support and in denial of both those actions. And that concludes the staff report.
Are there questions for the city or Mr. Paler? No questions. Anybody else? Al, did you have anything you wanted to say? Thank you. If not, I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this meeting to go through the fact-finding sheet with the city. Is okay. John?
All right. So I'm going to go through the staff's findings of fact form here, and the commission, in order to complete your findings of fact, can either agree or disagree with whatever staff is saying or create your own findings. So the first criteria is the variance in harmony with the purpose and intent of the city's zoning ordinance? Staff responded yes, that the applicant is currently requesting a rezoning of the property from R4 to R2. If rezoning is approved, twin homes are an allowed use in the R2 zoning district.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, question number 2, or criteria number 2. Is the variance request consistent with the city's comprehensive plan? Staff responded yes. The applicant is proposing twin homes on the property. Twin homes are considered a low-density type of residential land use and are allowed in a medium-density land use area.
Agreed.
Okay. Criteria number 3, does the proposal put the property to use in a reasonable manner not permitted by the city zoning ordinance? Staff responded yes. Twin homes on the property are a reasonable use. If the variance were granted, the structures on the property would still meet all setback requirements.
Agreed.
Okay, question number 4, and this is the one where everybody has a problem with the affirmative answer. Does the proposal impair adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, unreasonably increase congestion on public streets, increase the danger of fire, substantially diminish property values, and will not be materially detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or injurious to the property or improvements in the zoning district or neighborhood in which the property is located. So staff responded no. The reduction in the minimum lot width and area will not impact light or air, increase vehicle congestion, increase fire danger, or diminish nearby property values. Approval of the variances will likely decrease the impact of many of the listed items.
I would agree.
Agreed.
Okay, number 5, are the physical surroundings, lot size or shape, topography, water conditions, or other physical conditions unique to the property? Staff responded yes. The curved configuration of the area streets, again, Fender Drive and Haberly Avenue, and the alleys create a half block of property with lots that are unusual in shape and size. The size and shape of the stormwater retention pond has impacted the location and size of the streets, alleys, and lots.
Agreed.
Would agree.
Number 6, the unique circumstances related to the property do not generally apply to other properties or buildings in the same zoning district or vicinity. Staff responded yes. Surrounding twin home lots do not have the same street configuration or a reduction in street frontage that necessitates the need for a variance. The new plat reduces the number of lots from 6 to 4, yet it requires variances. The property originally qualified for 2 sets of twin homes, but no longer does because of the standards in the new zoning ordinance.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Number 7, the unique circumstances to the property were not created by the owner of the property. That is, staff responded yes. The location and size of the stormwater retention pond were determined by the city of New Ulm. The location and alignment of Fender Drive was also determined by the New Ulm EDA.
Agreed.
Agreed.
All right, number 8, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality. Staff responded no. The number of developable lots will be reduced from 6 to 4. This will improve livability in the area and not adversely impact the essential character of the locality.
Would agree.
Agreed.
Number 9, is the variance request the minimum amount necessary to eliminate the practical difficulties? Staff responded yes. The applicant is proposing the minimum variance amount to build twin homes that comply with the required setbacks.
Agreed.
Agreed.
All right, last, number 10. The practical difficulty includes more than economic considerations alone. Staff responded yes. Economic considerations alone do not appear to be a factor in deciding the proposed lot sizes or lot widths.
I would
Agreed.
agree.
So,
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
And paging back up to the motions. I'm going to call for a motion on the minimum lot width. Is there a motion to approve or
I move to recommend approval of variance request of Al Paler on behalf of S&P Development LLC to reduce the minimum lot width for Lot 2 to 55.2 feet, Lot 3 to 52.48 feet, and Lot 4 width to 54.8 feet, Block 1, Milford Heights, 7th edition.
Second the motion.
any further discussion? I have a motion and a second to recommend approval. Whether, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next motion I would request is on the reduction of the minimum lot area.
I move to recommend approval of variance request of Alan Paler on behalf of S&P Development LLC to reduce the minimum lot area for Lot 2 to 7,303 square feet and Lot 3 to 7,328 square feet, Block 1, Milford Heights, 7th edition.
I'll second that motion.
I have a second, a motion and a second. Are there any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, and this is the next council meeting, which is next week?
yep, November
Thank you.
4th at 4:30. So this next item, I had received an email from the applicant this afternoon that says, "Dear John, we are pausing our project until spring, so I'm pulling my variance application for extending the front porch. I will resubmit this spring."
Okay, so this was the one that was tabled last time there. Okay. So that closes the public hearings. Moving on to plat. Let me get this up. Consider the approval of the final plat of Milford Heights 7th edition.
Okay, the applicant is Al Paler on behalf of S&P Development LLC. Current legal description is Lot 8 through 13, Block 2, Milford Heights, second edition. Street address is 633 to 653 Haberly Avenue. The property is generally located west of Haberly Avenue and south of Beinhorn Street. Now, we've gone through everything else that's on the background part of the staff report. And if the commission doesn't mind, we'll dispense with that, and I'll jump to the project description.
Would be good.
Okay. The area to be platted consists of 6 existing lots. Property was originally platted to allow for the construction of townhomes. New plat would consist of 4 lots, and 2 sets of twin homes would be located on the lots. Platted area totals 0.79 acres. Earlier we said 0.78 acres. Actually, it's like 0.7847 or something. That's why we jump back and forth. Twin homes are not permitted in the R4 zoning district. Property should be rezoned R2. Services have been extended into the 6 existing lots. The plat would divide the property as follows. So the lot areas are provided. You've gone through that as well. The platted area abuts alleys on the rear or west side, and one lot, Lot 4, abuts an alley on the south side. Both alleys are 20 feet wide. The requirements for a lot in the R2 zoning district are lot width of 60 feet, depth of 125, and lot area of 75 square feet. As noted previously, the lots comply with these standards with, the exceptions for lot width and lot area, and we've gone through that. Section 4.11 of Appendix A of the City Code allows a 0-foot interior side yard setback to accommodate a twin home in the R2 zoning district. Status of conditions. Number 1, pay the platting fee of $295. That payment is pending. Number 2, provide an electronic file of the plat in an AutoCAD 2016 or newer format. That notice has been provided to the land surveyor. Number 3, status of 2 unused utility services in Haberly Avenue. The plat was distributed to appropriate city and PUC departments, and no comments have been received on that particular item. Number 4, secure necessary variances. The variance application has been submitted, and the commission has taken action on that item. Number 5, rezone the property to R2. The rezoning petition has been submitted, and you've taken action on that item. The attachments include the final plat, and that is what is shown on the video monitor at this time. And then there's an aerial photo as attachment 2. Staff would recommend approval of the final plat since it complies with city code requirements, subject to the approval of the conditions. The outstanding conditions, if you go back to the status of conditions, would be number 1, number 4, and number 5. The variances and the rezonings obviously are not official until the city council takes action on that. A notice provided regarding the parkland dedication matter. They comply with that requirement. Item E identifies a motion to approve the final plat and a motion to deny the final plat. That would conclude the staff report.
Thank you. And does commission have any questions?
No.
If not, I'd call for a motion.
I'd move to recommend approval of the final plat of the Milford Heights 7th edition with conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is discuss the new date for the November 2022 meeting.
Our November regular meeting date falls on Thanksgiving. So typically, we've looked for an alternate date. Right now, we don't have any agenda items, and I'm not aware of any that are pending. But typically, what we would do is meet the week after. And so I guess we'll just have to see what happens. I don't know if we can get a quorum at that time. So I guess we can either, do you know at this time, or if we can send a doodle poll and see what our attendance would be.
Can I suggest that we, if items come up, that you then do the doodle poll, otherwise
Right.
we can,
No agenda, can we push to the December? Can we
not,
cancel?
not if.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Meet in November.
Right.
Yeah.
So kind of leave ourselves flexible in that
Right.
regard.
So
Okay.
you can do the doodle poll if
Something comes
if something comes up, and then we
Sure.
just push to the next month. Is that
Sounds good.
That works for me.
okay?
Thank you.
Yes, city council decisions on concerning the planning commission matters.
Okay, at the October 4th meeting, they approved the preliminary plat of Milford Heights 7th edition. And they also then approved with conditions the application of Bonnie Lance for a conditional use permit to allow a 6-foot tall fence in the front yard area at 1625 South Franklin Street. Height was 4 feet. They approved with conditions the application of John Gogg for a variance to allow a detached garage to be constructed 5 feet from the front yard property line at 1339 Oak Street. 30 feet is the required setback there. On a non-planning commission matter, they awarded a contract to Bolton and Mink to provide professional services for the implementation of a stormwater utility fee. Obviously, stormwater is something that is a cost that impacts all of our development. At the October 18th meeting, they conducted public hearing on the final plat of the Dreamville New Ulm addition. And the action that they took at that time simply was to close the public hearing. They did not vote on the request because there are 4 different items that go into the approval of a planned unit development, which the Dreamville project is requesting. And the development agreement is not yet been agreed upon, and so we're currently working on that. And so everything else would be ready to approve, but we want the development agreement also to be finished, and then we will approve all 4 items at one time. And this is all part of the planned unit development approval process. Okay. They kind of on, again, non-planning commission items, they conducted a public hearing on a loan to the Farmers Co-op of Hanska in the amount of $250,000, and that was for the purpose of rebuilding the structure that was damaged in the fire. Again, they closed the public hearing, but they didn't take action on it because officials from the co-op could not be present. They also authorized the staff to determine the feasibility of establishing a tax abatement program for United Commercial Upholstery, which is located at 2009 North Broadway. That particular firm is proposing a fairly substantial building addition, and so we'll be proceeding with the necessary steps to establish that tax abatement district in the next month. And then finally, they conducted the first consideration of the ordinance that rezoned the Dreamville property to a planned unit development. Second consideration will be part of that for four-item approval process. So that would conclude that report.
Comprehensive plan updates?
John was supposed to give that, if you could maybe,
Well, while we're waiting for John, I attended most of it except Saturday of the meetings that we had. Pretty interesting, and I thought that the public was very supportive, those that attended, and I thought we had a great variety of ages that attend. I mean, Friday was MA, so there were even children on the tour. Mothers brought their children and stuff, so it was a good interaction with the public, I felt.
I agree. Wednesday evening
Wednesday,
group was an older group of
Yeah.
citizens, and the next night, Thursday night, was a younger group.
it
I think
was.
there were a lot of business people from downtown who were really interested, and it was a younger group. And yeah, people were very engaged in the activities, and I think everyone who came and listened to the beginning parts of the meetings where they were explaining what was going on, I think everyone learned a lot about the process and, what a comprehensive plan is supposed to do. I just thought people were very engaged.
And I thought that the people that came to their direct groups all were from that particular group in most cases and were very invested, and it was nice
Yeah.
to see that. Yeah,
People asked really good questions, and
Yeah. it's your turn now.
I don't apologize.
Not a problem.
So just to give kind of a little recap, but it sounds like you already did. On average, we had about 30 people show up to each one of the rapid planning session meetings. And then for the tours, we had anywhere from 15 to 20 on each tour. So it was pretty nice. And I think it helps people visualize what we're talking about when we're out on the landscape and can see where we're actually, versus just looking at a map. And then what the consultants did is took all the ideas that they literally gathered the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then put together concepts based on what they were hearing at those meetings and on the tours, and provided concepts of the 4 different areas that we were looking at. So again, downtown, Upper Cottonwood, Milford, kind of northwest, by the airport, and then the industrial park. So again, I handed those out to everybody. These aren't final concepts by any means. These are just some concepts that they came up with based on what they were hearing for feedback. So take a look at them. If you have anything you want to add to it or talk about, you can either say that now or shoot me an email or talk to the consultants. Otherwise, I wanted to note too on the comprehensive plan, they should have that second survey out. We're hoping it's here this week. We just got an email from them the other day that it should be ready very quickly.
Is the interactive map still up? So if,
Interactive map is still up, and they're going to leave that up for the entire duration of the comprehensive planning process.
only because when I went in that Thursday afternoon when it was open from 1 to 4 to cover questions from the public if they came in. And there were people came in, but they had questions about other areas of the city also, so I think that map is important for people with concerns in other neighborhoods and things too, because we also need to be aware this is a comprehensive plan that really is for the city and not exclusively for those 4 areas that we're concentrating on.
Right, I think, as I talked to several people, it felt as though they were thinking that these 4 areas were really what the comprehensive plan was going to be about, and I said, no, really, the comprehensive plan has different chapters that talk about, industrial use and parks and rec and all of that, and then they went, oh, yeah, okay, so I think it's maybe something to keep in front of people, that this is just a part of the plan.
Sure.
Right.
It's great insight for the next time, we maybe put something in the newspaper or
Yeah.
go on KNUJ or something.
Yeah, because there were some good questions. I think a comment and an involvement from a citizen is always a good comment or an involvement, whether I agree or not. But
Couple of
it was a
things
place
I'd
we
like
could put it.
to note is regarding the 4 action plans. The one that was done for the downtown seemed to me primarily focused on what is taking place in the public rights of way. There really wasn't much discussion about land use downtown.
Okay.
Other than, that residential was to be a component of it, but it didn't look at particular locations and say, you should consider this type of land use in these particular spots.
Yeah, but when that comes to the questions, most of the other questions that we got did not involve just the public right of way. It involved, the people that were touring were also talking about like the mall
Yeah.
and,
But that didn't come out in their report. It was more on what
Okay.
can we do in the public rights of way to maybe change some things.
Okay.
The other plans that they did for the other 3 areas, those are just kind of first glance looks, based on what they saw and what they heard. But, we're at the beginning of this process and there's a way to go.
9
So-
months. Yeah.
And the other thing I'd like to note about the survey, the second survey, is a good part of that is multiple choice. So it's not asking for you to sit down and write your thoughts out. It's to respond to,
It's not
a
an
list
essay.
of items that are, and they didn't, most of the questions, it wasn't, give me one choice. It was give me 4 choices. Some of them had 5 choices. So there's, an opportunity there not to have to focus on just one item. And then we also hope that they'll be able to incorporate a couple questions where we're looking for people to give us some feedback. For example, maybe what location in the community has the greatest need for a park improvement? What's the worst intersection in town? Asking for some opinions, and hopefully they'll be able to include that, and we can get some input that way as well. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it'd be good to see it if it comes out this week. Is that it? Are there any questions about the comprehensive plan?
Well, one thing I'm just going to bring up, I didn't get to attend, I stopped in for a little bit and visited with the consultants Thursday after work. I couldn't make it Thursday evening, but I was there the other 3 nights, or Saturday morning included. Did anybody discuss the potential for the armory at the future? That's in our downtown area. Was that ever brought up?
When we did our tour, we did specifically point out to them the location of the armory and that that land use will be changing, and that we would look forward to their consideration of what would be appropriate there.
Okay.
So yeah, they're aware of
Yeah,
the site. Yeah.
I was just kind of curious if we were going to cross Broadway or not, and correct. Yeah,
Right.
No, I'm talking about the old one.
because we were on,
Yeah, it was brought up, but I think the date and the time frame of it was still tenuous at the time of the
Yeah,
discussion, but
it's-
it was brought up.
It's
Yeah.
not firm.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about the downtown area and that, potentially,
Yeah.
that was included.
Something that John and I had done is we had taken the 4 areas that were identified, and the RFP had some, boundaries, and John and I took the liberty of maybe expanding them to include some other adjoining areas to get to some maybe major streets that could serve as boundary lines rather than using property lines. And so I don't know how far they're going to go in that direction, but we included then maybe a block of property on the other side of Broadway, to consider what's going on there as well.
Came up because they kept focusing on Minnesota Street, and I kept saying, no, wait a minute, this goes to German Park and it goes to Broadway.
It actually goes beyond Broadway
and
to
beyond, yeah,
the
so-
state.
Well, and there were some people in one of the breakout groups that I talked with who were talking about extending maybe another block further south.
Right.
You know, and pulling in a little bit longer downtown area.
Well, they looked at south and north because there was a lot of property to the north of the designated area that's also changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a lot for us to keep on the back of our mind that when these plans start firming up 3 or 4 months down the line, that we recall all those things and make sure that they really are addressed.
So we did add an additional block or two to the north and south of what their original map
Yeah.
is, to include like the old Chinese restaurant and just past the Glockenspiel, and then south past the apartments, the senior apartments.
That's a burger joint now, burgers and steaks.
Yeah.
And the Armory actually did come up in one of the breakout sessions that I was into. Yeah, I wanted it brought into the discussion.
There's a lot here if you really start, when we went the tours, I mean, and you started really thinking about what's there and what you could do, it was decidedly different than sitting there looking at a map in the room when you actually saw the space and the arrangement of the structures around it. It was good.
I'd just like to add a comment from Saturday. You know, when Antonio spoke, he said that some people brought up about bringing people to German Park, and then one of his ideas, and he's got it here on this, is to make a festival street, you know, say out of First or Second North there, and make it a major corridor. You know, we're using Center Street for our Oktoberfest and stuff. Move it off, you know, so that way you're not affecting industry with the truck traffic, and that's something we can really do. Minded just with council decisions, we really don't have to put a lot of money into that. We already have it. We have parking lots and infrastructure and things of that nature, and with a new event center down there and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty sharp that he came up with a fast
Quickly, yeah.
idea, concept.
Yeah. Are there any other comments or questions?
I thought the discussion around parking was very interesting.
There was a big discussion on parking.
About parking in downtown and really how much parking you have based on the type of parking you allow. And, you know, whether it's parallel or 3/4 or whatever the other angles are, that, you know, that was really interesting.
It was that evening, and it was also that day on the walk. It was and I've had that discussion because it was kind of forefront. I had that discussion with many other people and with businesses and individuals. And everybody has an opinion on parking. It was an interesting discussion. I'm sure you've heard it many times. Yeah, so.
One of the interesting pieces of information that they passed along was that to build a parking ramp, you're looking at $20,000 per stall.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's out of the budget.
I thought the building that he brought, I believe it was in St. Paul, and I'm familiar with that corner that he said it was on, but didn't know there was parking, that the main floor was shops, boutiques and things, built up 3 stories to look like it was a facade of buildings, and it was parking ramp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is that?
That's in that Highland Village that's being built
Yeah.
where the Ford plant was. We drove through it this weekend. It's an incredible design. If you
Yeah.
ever get a chance, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, for another time, I guess. Elwood? My screen went blank, so I'm assuming it's heritage preservation.
Yes, Elwood Zubble, building official. We had 2 design reviews for signage, and they both went through. One was for the old CLA building, and the other one for the Dave Hirth Agency. So that was it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business to come before the commission? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.